Hey guys, my name is RJ. This is The Secret Stacks, and this is my March wrap up. So I'm going to start doing something a little bit different with my wrap ups, where instead of just telling you if I missed my reading goal, I'm going to tell you what exactly was distracting me, what I'm doing in movies, anime, TV shows, things like that, just because those are almost related to what I'm doing book wise. And I thought you guys might be interested. So after I go over my books, I'll go over what other forms of entertainment have been getting in my head. So my reading for the month really started out with Slay That series, which was my first readathon ever. It was a lot of fun, and I was reading the series that I've really enjoyed so far. And if you've been watching any of my other videos or you follow me on Twitter, you know that's the Mortal Instruments. In particular, City of Ashes and City of Glass. You like my high-tech rubber bands on my iPad. So technically, I didn't finish City of Glass during Slay That series, but I did do it a couple days after. Let me just tell you, I had every excuse in the book available to me during Slay That series. We're talking about March Madness, talking about daylight savings time. So technically, it was 1 hour shorter than it should have been. But anyway, back to the books. City of Ashes, I enjoyed, but just like the first book, you're not really getting any resolution. So for me, that ended up being around a 3 stars, just because both City of Bones and City of Ashes, they don't really resolve anything in the main conflict. I wouldn't quite call them cliffhangers, but it's almost like the first 3 books in the Mortal Instruments are one big book and one big story arc, which is why I probably enjoyed City of Glass so much. That I went ahead and gave 4 stars, and the only reason it wasn't a 5 star for me is I wasn't that surprised by anything that happened. But in terms of pure enjoyment factor, it was a lot of fun. It gave you sort of satisfying endings for a lot of the characters, which makes me a little hesitant to go on with the series because knowing that she topped on, I think it's 4 books after that, I'm curious whether I feel like she goes back on some of her character development just in order to make sure that the series can continue moving in terms of a personal struggle kind of story arc, which I thought she did a great job of maturing these characters to completion in City of Glass. And because my reading has been a little slow lately, I've decided to make a concerted effort to try to do some audiobooks. And the first one I tried is 1 Second After by William Fortune. And I hate to admit this, but I DNF'd it. I gave it 80 minutes of audio time. I think that breaks down to maybe 2 chapters, but 80 minutes I feel is a big investment in a story. But my problem with it, it's a post-apocalyptic story that just it never got into it quick enough for me. There wasn't a sense of urgency. And I felt a little bit like it was your grandpa's telling of a post-apocalyptic event. Nothing against grandpas, I love my grandpas, but it's just set in a North Carolina town. It just feels sort of folksy and never felt like it was going to get intense enough for me. It felt a little bit paint by numbers. So I'm trying to do a better job of DNFing books that I don't really enjoy immediately, just because there is so much that I want to read. So this one, I put it away. I may come back to it, we'll see, but it just didn't grip me right away. But an audiobook that I did enjoy is Legend by Marie Lu, which is a dystopian story which, after apocalyptic events, America's been split into 2 warring factions, the colonies on the East Coast and the Republic on the West Coast. And this follows the story of Day, who is a rebel in the Republic, who goes toe-to-toe with one of the Republic's prodigies, who happens to be a young, cute girl. And Legend was perfect as an audiobook. It's simple, and I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean, it's just very easily understandable. It's an interesting world, but it's not too crazy complex, and it was just really fun and easy to follow along with. I'll give this one 3.5 stars because sometimes the simplicity does hold it back a little bit, just because I almost knew beforehand almost everything that happened, which does take a little bit of the surprise factor out of the equation. And so that was the entirety of my reading in March, which again, 3 books or 3.25 is a little behind my goal of trying to read 1 book a week. And considering that's the second month in a row that that's happened, I do have to start picking up my pace here a little bit. But now, like I promised, I want to talk to you about a little bit of the things that have been distracting me. Probably my biggest distraction for the month, and you guys should blame Taylor from Book of Flicks Taylor for this one, but Teen Wolf. I heard about Teen Wolf from Taylor because she actually named her dog Styles, and we were talking about it in reference to Dylan O'Brien because I had just read The Maze Runner, and I gotta say, Teen Wolf, really excellent. I'm pretty sure they had a $10 production budget for the first season, but beyond that, they just did such a great job with casting, and it's such a hilarious show. And they really do invest in it along further. But in the month of March alone, I tore through 4 seasons. So I'm trying to take a little bit of a step back now just because I do want to focus a little bit more of that time on reading, especially transitioning some of that time to audiobooks. But I gotta say, I'm gonna keep going with the series. It's awesome. And thank you, Taylor, for showing me the light that is Teen Wolf. And finally, in terms of anime, again, this is a big distraction point for me because I'm just getting into anime and there is so much out there to watch. After going through the giant sort of fantasy series of Naruto and Fairy Tail, I wanted something a little more grounded and something a little shorter. So looking for a little more slice of life type stuff. So I went ahead and did My Little Monster and Your Lie in April, which both very different sort of romances, but again, a little bit more slice of life and very different reactions. My Little Monster, there were some great moments, but eventually just got repetitive for me. But Your Lie in April just slayed me. It's so good. If you guys are into anime and you haven't checked it out, it is really fantastic, especially because it's been in my purview for a long time and the description didn't seem interesting to me. It's about a piano player who, after his mother dies, stops playing the piano and him meeting a violinist and how she eventually brings him back to music. It's really, really excellently done. I do have to warn you, it does tug at emotional strings unrelentingly. So there's that. And finally, to top it all off, the cherry, and it is awesome. I don't know if you guys were ever fans of Digimon back in the day, but now that they're doing Digimon Tree, which is the characters now that they're in high school coming back, and it's set up as 5 separate movies, which shake out to 4 anime episodes per movie. So you get them every 2 or 3 months. And really, it's just a nostalgia bomb for me because Digimon is probably it is the first anime that I ever watched, even though back then I just thought of it as a children's cartoon. But it's the first one I watched front to back, and I wasn't a big TV person back in the day, so that was huge for me, and I really enjoy it. And seeing all these characters, it just, boom. I don't know whether it's any good or not. I can't evaluate it objectively. It's just awesome. So if you guys are fans of Digimon and haven't checked it out, I said go for it because it's just really fun to see all these characters again, especially now they're grown up as they deal with a little bit different issues than they did when they were kids. And so that's it for my March. Until next time, see ya.